So I think I'd like to welcome my panelists as well, please, and we'll let each give their introductions. We have Hossam Basrawi, Chief Executive Officer of Alrajhi Capital. We have Hehir, the President and CEO of Trinity Investments. And we have Khalid Mulla, Chief Financial Officer of Madinah. I know, gents, the intro I gave you isn't the same as the one they gave me, but each will introduce themselves shortly. Please, Khalid. Hi. Thank you all for being with us, and I think maybe we'll start perhaps with each giving an introduction about themselves and about their organizations, and then we can delve into the topic after that.
Hello, I am Hossam Basrawi. I am the CEO of Alrajhi Capital, and I've been in the industry for almost 29 years, focused on corporate and investment banking.
Hi, thank you for having me today. My name is Hehir. I'm the CEO of Trinity Investments. We're a hospitality investor focused exclusively on investing in hospitality assets in the US, in Europe, and hopefully in this region as well. We focus on brand managed, mainly Hilton, Marriott, Hyatt, and Accor. And we focus on full service hotels that tend to be larger, more destination-oriented properties.
Thank you. Khalid Mulla, the CFO of Royal Madinah Holding. Royal Madinah is a fully owned company by PIF. It's headquartered in Madinah, focusing in real estate development, specialized in hospitality.
Thank you all for the humble introductions. There's much more behind each of you, and hopefully we can enrich everyone with some of your experiences. I think on the topic of financing hospitality ventures, we thought we're going to look at it from three angles. Initially, we're going to touch on bank financing, traditional financing. Then we're going to look at private sector partnerships and investment structures, and finally into real estate funds. Maybe as a start as well, we would like to hear from the panelists as to how you see the ecosystem for investing in hospitality in the kingdom. I think that would be good to set a stage as well. Perhaps you can start with some.
We're living it through, first of all, thank you for having me this year. I was here last year as well, for participating in this amazing event. I think the whole hospitality sector in Saudi is going through a massive boom, and if you think about the main drivers for that, I think I can summarize it into four that come to my mind. First, of course, is the religious tourism that's happening in the two holy cities, and then the giga projects that are focused on hospitality and everything that they bring with it. Third is the main events that have been already announced to be hosted by Saudi Arabia in the next few years. And fourth is all the traffic for these businesses that are happening today. I think that's kind of creating strong foundation for investment and financing for the full value chain of the hospitality sector. So the first thing that comes to mind are, of course, real estate projects, but I think the full value chain is going to benefit from this, and this is, I think, goes very well as an outcome of Vision 2030 and what's driving the economy. So I think the financing appetite across all the value chain participants, be it workforce, training, F&B, hotels, contractors, or furnishing, you name it. There is a lot of growth happening, and the ability today for the banks to assess the risk with the availability of data really is giving a lot of support for the banks to look at it. In addition, I think all the government funds that are supporting the hospitality sector through direct equity, through financing, through guaranteeing loans, this is also really giving a lot of comfort for lending and investing. So it's very exciting, and I think if you look at the growth on the financing in this sector across the total banks, is growing very, very, very rapidly in the past 5 years.
Excellent. Khalid, how do you see the market and the ecosystem from your perspective?
The kingdom is building a full ecosystem for the hospitality sector, not only from a real estate development perspective, also from the other aspects such as logistic, hotel operation, resources, human capital, technology, all these sectors that complete the full ecosystem for hospitality will attract investors, will raise the appetite for financing an investor to participate with the kingdom to achieve its goal in 2030.
Thank you. And Sean, I suppose from your perspective as an international investor, or a known investor in the hospitality industry around the world, being here in itself, I suppose, shows that there is a positive, let's say, outlook in the market or something attracting you to the market. How do you see the market from international investors' perspective?
Well, I think it's incredibly exciting when you see the kingdom with its commitment to the tourism infrastructure and creating the venues for people to come. We then look, you've got a very strong host culture that people will want to come in or are coming to experience. And it's not just a host culture, but it's a host culture of hospitality. The hospitality that I always experience when I'm in the kingdom is really second to none or on a par with every other major tourism destination. So you've got that commitment to Vision 2030, you've got the evidence of these projects taking off and the investment in it. You've got a tremendous labor pool that is able to deliver the services in close proximity of the kingdom. So I couldn't be more excited about the prospects going forward. The kingdom really has the resources, the commitment, and the drive to get it done. So it's a very exciting time, in my opinion.
Excellent. Jumping into bank financing, perhaps, or the traditional mode of financing when it comes to development, I'd be interested to hear as well your perspectives on the market, local banks, international banks, availability of financing, based on each of your experiences. Perhaps, Sam, you can go first on that.
Yeah, I think today a lot of the transformation that happened across the regulation, both on the capital market, on the lending side and the lending side, really created a good platform that would attract some investment locally and internationally. I think a lot of the fund structures that are happening today in the market for real estate kind of puts together the investor with the lender, with the government entity, developer, the operator, and it provides really strong governance around the financing and the project itself. So this is kind of also, it's very important to highlight that this is also giving the lenders more, they do more scrutiny around market risks and market trends. And that's kind of giving more deepening to the credit decisioning and the lending part. So availability of data, strong governance of the funds, good analysis of the credit and the risk that the lenders and the investors are taking are really creating a strong foundation for a sustainable growth model and a sustainable investment returns. Sean, if you want to add.
Sure, I agree with everything you said, Hossam. When we look at financing, it's one of the most important counterparty risks that we look at. Who is your lender? What is your experience with them? How have they behaved in tough times? And by the way, it's the same the other way around. The lender's looking at the sponsor. Who is the sponsor? What is your track record? How have you behaved in tough times? So, and I'm always reminded that real estate and hospitality real estate is a local business. So you need local financing sources or international financing sources that have local teams that understand all of the nuances. And the final thing we look at very closely is the rule of law. Are your basic property rights protected? And the kingdom obviously checks that box 100%, which makes it an incredibly strong investment grade market for lenders to participate in financing projects.
Okay.
With the growth in the hospitality sector in the kingdom in the past couple of years, increased the appetite of banks to participate in financing such projects. And I think the base that several government entities and funds such as PIF injected the establishment of those real estate and other ecosystem companies encourage the banks to participate in this vision.
Okay. Excellent, excellent. One theme as well we see in the market is opening up many major projects to sub-development opportunities and co-investment opportunities, which are effectively ways of indirect financing and bringing in private sector investment. We're seeing a lot of appetite from the private sector to partner on these major projects, which shows that the full ecosystem believes in these projects. I wondered, I remember, Khalid, you mentioned that says a lot about the demand side and what's expected in terms of the market growth. How do you see these opportunities, and what are your thoughts on this, let's say, rising trend in the market?
I think the rising demand currently in the kingdom, across the kingdom, we can see there other cities are over demand. If we give an example of Al-Haramain, Mecca and Medina, currently in terms of hospitality sector, there is an over demand on what the supply is provided. And an increasing rates in the other cities such as Riyadh, Ula and Jeddah, which is a great opportunity for investors to jump into those projects, invest, as well as lenders like banks and investment institutions.
Okay, interesting. And Sean, from your perspective, how have you viewed, private sector partnerships on projects? How would you view partnerships in general when coming into markets?
Well, we have joint ventures on almost every investment that we make. And when we invest globally, it's incredibly important that we have a strong local partner, somebody who understands how to navigate the system, that understands the laws, etc. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. So for us, if we were to consider investing in the region and in the kingdom, having a partner would be very, very important. We did the same when we started investing in Mexico. We did the same when we were investing in Japan. We do the same in Europe. So a partnership approach is really the backbone of how Trinity has been built on every deal and also across our funds. We view it as a partnership, and that's important to us.
Okay, excellent. Hossam, I understand, you obviously come from a very long banking career, and, you mentioned that structuring investments through capital markets, etc., is probably the trend moving forward. How do you see it as well from your perspective? These, partnering, whether it's partnering through fund structures, through joint ventures, long-term development agreements, how are you seeing the market when it comes to that?
I think it's more and more towards fund structure will make more sense, and you'll see that more and more growth on that field, because like I said, the controls and regulations and the governance around the funds gives comfort to all parties who are participating into these projects. And I think the enablement that Vision 2030 has done towards not only funds, but also the support of the government through financing, but also creating destinations and creating the right platform and environment for investment is one part. And the enhancement in the regulation allowing controls and ease of getting permits and licenses, and all of that actually really created a sustainable model for investment and financing. And I think it's very important that we must not neglect local tourism. And I think with the population of Saudi Arabia and the growing population of Saudi Arabia and the amazing destinations that we have and locations that we have across the kingdom, right, there is a lot of demand for local tourism. And that goes all the way from not only hospitality and hotels, but also F&B, entertainment, and the full value chain that is being offered. So I think, and the different segments. So it's not only the high-end segment. There are also other segments that could attract a lot of capital, a lot of lending, with very good margins. And with that, it's really exciting for the whole financial sector to support the full value chain with all of these enablements that are happening in the kingdom.
Okay, excellent, excellent. You touched on funds. I guess that's one of the points or one of the topics we wanted to discuss. I think we're in a market where real estate funds are incredibly popular as a structure for developing real estate, not just as an investment vehicle, but also, we see a lot of projects structured and financed through investment fund structures, particularly private funds, but also many public funds as well. That is a very important enabler, let's say, to the market. But also I wanted to hear each of your thoughts on funds in general in the market and, both from a local and international perspective. Perhaps we can start with you, Khalid.
Funds is one of the enablers for the hospitality sector to move on with its goals. I think government funds plays a big role now, as PIF is one of the major funds that contributes to the hospitality sector. I think one of the good examples we have here is the Tourism Development Fund, also contribute to that goal. Private bank funds that is held by financial institution through the banks كمان enable the private sector to be part of that journey. I think for international investors too, those funds are a window to go into the local project, contribute to it, and gain the benefit and share the benefit with the local market.
Yeah, and then just to add on to that, I guess one of the unique aspects of CMA-regulated funds is that they do allow foreign capital to invest in the kingdom and also into Mecca and Medina, which are traditionally restricted markets. So that's why perhaps funds can also have a role of bringing in capital and having a fully legal way of investing into certain markets. Sean, from your perspective, you've seen funds of different types, of different sizes all around the world. You had lots of things to say about funds, some positive, some not so positive. How has your view been or your experience has been investing in funds and seeing funds as a market enabler, let's say?
Yeah, I think funds are really critical to investing because for your average investor, be it an individual or a sovereign wealth fund or a pension fund, endowment, etc., it really gives them access to opportunities on a global basis. My one criticism of funds is that some of them are too general. And I think it's difficult to profess that you can be an expert across a whole wide range of industries or real estate asset classes. Now, I am preaching from my own songbook because we're a dedicated hospitality investor. So our 50 people at Trinity are really 100% focused on hospitality real estate. It's their background, it's their training, and it's their sole focus. But our investors in our funds are both sovereign wealth funds, institutions, and individuals, and it does provide them access to our management team. It does provide them access to a lot of the proprietary opportunities that we are able to source. But we are raising funds on a regionalized basis so that people can pick and choose which regions they want to be in. They may not have a risk appetite for Europe, but they may want the United States or the region here. So I think that's important. But as a fund investor, it's very important to do your due diligence on who the managers are, what their track record is, what their pipeline looks like. And we're fundraising right now, so I'm answering all of those questions, and it's really an important part of the diligence. But funds really help fuel economies, help fuel investment, and I think are a very important component.
Okay.
I think that's a very important point. The fund manager understanding the industry and the dynamics of the industry is very important for the sector, because for the financing and the investment, because you need to be agile to understand the challenges that come along from the demand and supply, and the challenges that come around execution, delivery. When it's a mixed-use project, the right setting of the customer base. I think a fund manager who understands the industry doesn't only look at it from a financial aspect, but also look at all the challenges that go with it, as a real estate or as a hospitality or a commercial property. I think that's very important for a successful fund to succeed.
Okay, clear. And I think, for yourselves as Alrajhi Capital, obviously you have one of the leading, let's say, real estate fund teams, and a lot of them are in the room here and very active in the market. I think we had a conversation also about, for a lot of investors that regularly invest in funds, they fully understand it locally and they feel it's a positive plus. But we were also discussing that for a lot of people that are looking to invest for the first time into a fund, they question a lot, is it worth the fees we're going to pay? What's the value add? And I think we had a lot of points to discuss in relation to, enabling, connecting parties, bringing in financing, etc. Any thoughts you want to add on that?
I think the awareness across the board between the investors, the developers, and the operators, and the banks is phenomenal in the past few years. They really appreciate the value, and today we see a lot of appetite to go into fund, because really the governance and the scrutiny of the risk associated with each project gives a lot of comfort for the lenders and the investors. And at the same time, it brings a lot of expertise together. So you can find someone who's a landlord working with the operator, with the developer, coming together in a fund structure, kind of brings all of that power in one place and kind of gets the maximum value that you can get from such products. So this is really, the awareness on that aspect is really picking up very nicely in the market.
Okay, excellent. I think maybe finally, just before we wrap up, if any of you want to share any, key lessons learned or any tips to the audience or to someone looking to finance a hospitality venture, Any thoughts to the market, perhaps, that you want to share from anyone's perspective?
I think paying attention not only to the real estate part, but also to the full value chain is something that I think is sometimes, a lot of times, skipped and not really focused on. So the workforce today on the hospitality sector, a lot of it is about service and the quality of the workforce that's providing that service. And everything that goes with that is I think is a good place to invest and lend and expand, because if you have a huge hotel or a huge commercial center or a restaurant or F&B, if you don't have the right workforce as such a service industry, I don't think you'll have a good project. So the full value chain should be looked at across all sectors on the hospitality side, and get the support that it needs from the financing and the investment capital.
Interesting. Okay. I think we might have a few minutes left before we wrap up, so we could take questions if anyone from the audience has anything they want to ask any of the panelists, anything you want us to expand on. We can take that. If not, then I assume that everyone covered their points very thoroughly and there's no stone left unturned. So please join me in thanking our esteemed panelists for their wealth of knowledge that they shared with us, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.